You see, I've always had a love-hate relationship with Mr. Negative. We've had our ups, we've had our downs. On paper, he is a great champion. Access to power control, main source of damage is degen. Not many champions are immune to that. Removes buffs just by dashing back. Has a unique, fun playstyle. But there is one thing that has always held Mr. Negative back, and it's something that you can't do anything about. Something that has been around since the start of the game that will scare the life out of any negative player. Of course, I'm talking about the dumb ass unfazed mastery, which completely ruins any viability Mr. Negative would have in any competitive game mode. Alliance War, Battlegrounds, Mr. Negative is just not viable in there because of this dumb ass mastery. Because if your opponent runs it, there's nothing you can do to avoid getting hit in the face. You can't outskill it, there's no tech. There's nothing you can do. If your opponent runs unfazed, you basically can't use Mr. Negative without risking getting slapped in the face. So this video is mainly just going to be me ranting about how stupid the unfazed mastery and how backwards Mr. Negative's design is, because he's such a well designed champion that's ruined by such a big flaw. If the unfazed mastery didn't exist, we would see Mr. Negative everywhere in Battlegrounds, in Alliance War. He's such a well designed champion with great damage, a great source of damage. Not many champions are immune to degeneration, and he has plenty of utility, man. Immune to fate steal, has some of the strongest power control in the game if you know how to utilize it properly. He's such a great champion, but that single flaw he has with the unfazed mastery is undeniable, and there's no way to work around it. He does have a synergy which will give him slow on his evade, which does of course fix this problem, but that's the synergy. You can't use that synergy in Battlegrounds, and oftentimes you can't fit a synergy in your war team, so you're going to use a other option. That synergy should 100% be in his base kit, or it should be made into a relic. Kabam knows themselves that synergies are pretty much irrelevant nowadays. There's no reason not to make a relic where for science champions, when they evade, they inflict a slow on their opponent. This would completely fix the Mr. Negative problem, but as of right now, they haven't done that. And there's no reason they can't just give Mr. Negative a little update and give him a slow on evade in his base kit. There's no reason they can't do that. They just haven't. Now you might be wondering, well, doesn't Count Nefaria have the same sort of problem? Well, to a much lesser extent, because Count Nefaria always has debuffs on the opponent, so the opponent always has inequity, so they're always doing reduced damage, and of course, Count Nefaria has that insane regeneration, so even if you get hit from unfazed with Nefaria, you can just regen that back up, no problem. You ain't doing that with Mr. Negative. Mr. Negative is in fact quite squishy, so you actually need to play him well, but you can't play him well if your opponent is just going unstoppable whenever you evade. It's impossible to. There's actually another annoying problem with Mr. Negative, not as big as the unfazed problem, but sometimes the AI just goes crazy passive when you're charging a heavy and they won't attack into your heavy, so you won't evade and they'll let your heavy fall off and they'll just hit you in the face. It actually happened to me a few times while I was getting footage for this video, and I'll actually show you that now. You'll see dead ass, I'm standing there holding my heavy and the AI just stands there looking at me. It doesn't happen that often, and it's more of an AI issue than a Mr. Negative issue, to be honest. But hey, thought it's worth mentioning because it did annoy me a few times while I was getting footage for this. But yeah, I hope all this gameplay is making you see the potential of Mr. Negative. He's so versatile, he's taken so many tricky defenders. But of course, you're not seeing anyone do this in Battlegrounds because it's just too risky to use this guy. Despite all this, I actually did use Mr. Negative in Battlegrounds a lot back in the day, especially in the early days of Battlegrounds. He was one of the top science attackers, even with unfazed, because you know, Titania didn't even exist, Hulk wasn't buffed, there wasn't that many strong science attackers. Mr. Negative was for sure one of the fastest, so it was worth risking getting messed up by unfazed back then. But nowadays, it's really not worth the risk. It's really not worth running him. There are many champions that are faster and safer than him now. Mr. Negative isn't even the fastest champion in game. It's not like he'd be broken if they just gave him a slow on his heavy attack. There'd still be plenty better science champions than him. But no, they give him this massive drawback to make him even less popular. But in this Kindred match, this is pretty cool. From Mr. Negative's Sig ability, we actually start to regenerate degeneration damage. So you don't even have to play against Kindred properly. You can let Kindred degenerate you in this matchup and you just regen all of that. So yeah, Mr. Neg's probably the best counter for Kindred. This matchup here, I'm just showing you a rotation where you don't have to bait out any special attacks. The way Mr. Negative's power control works is he has that light energy. You convert that light energy into dark energy when you evade on your heavy attack, and when you convert, you'll place a delirious on your opponent, and this delirious reduces the opponent's combat power rate. That's where the power control comes from. So basically, you reduce your opponent's combat power rate whenever you evade, and you can see it's very easy to kill your opponent before they're able to use a single special attack. You do take a lot of block damage though. Mr. Negative is really squishy and block damage can be a big problem for him. I do really recommend using the Captain America relic and the block rating stat focus if you are using Mr. Negative, but you know, I really don't recommend using him. Even if you're a fan of the champion, the risk just isn't worth it. Like, Mr. Negative is so unique as well. He has such a unique playstyle. No one else feels like him in games. So it's such a shame that they gave him this massive flaw, man. Mr. Negs was actually one of my first ascended 6 stars as well. I remember ascending him for a safeguard meta, not a recent safeguard meta, but this was about a year ago. This was when I first started streaming, and I ascended Mr. Negative for this, and he was doing well for me at first. But then I had this match against Pepe and I was using Mr. Negative versus Terax, and all the OGs will know I crashed out in this matchup because basically Terax did that thing where I showed earlier where he didn't attack into my heavy and I couldn't evade, and he just let my heavy run out and there was nothing I could do about it, bro. I crashed out. That's when I really started to stop playing Mr. Negative. That's when I started to realize, oh, you really don't want to use Mr. Negative in 10 situations where it matters. You don't want to be relying on RNG champions, especially when you're pushing high in Battlegrounds. That's just a no-go. But in this Photon matchup, we can't parry her, so it's kind of hard to build up our light energy. What I like to do is I like to back myself in the corner and dex a bunch in the corner, utilize my evade as well, and that just builds up light energy really fast. Of course, it's not necessarily easy to do this, but it's a lot easier than it looks because that evade gives you a lot of breathing room while you're quaking in the corner. So it's really not that tense. It's not as hard as it looks. But yeah, this method definitely takes some practice. But you can nuke champions like Photon or any champions you can't parry pretty well doing this method. So let's say you don't care about battlegrounds, you don't care about war, you only care about story mode. Would I say Mr. Negative is worth ranking then? Absolutely. You don't have to worry about unfazed in story content. So yeah, if you don't care about battlegrounds or war, definitely rank up Mr. Negative. He's a dope champion that's unique and fun, and definitely a worthy rank up for story content or just for fun. But if you're looking for a top tier science champion that will help you in battlegrounds, Mr. Negative ain't it, because in any meta Mr. Negative works. It only takes one of the homies saying, "Hey yo, I just got cooked by a Mr. Negative," then everyone starts running 5 out of 5 unfazed. That's all it takes. One person will say in a group chat, "I've just been cooked by Mr. Negative," and boom, 5-5 unfazed. So no Mr. Negative matches anymore. That's why he will never become a meta slash relevant champion, because there's always that roadblock standing in his way no matter what you do. I'm sure a lot of people will be thinking Negs will be good for next meta in Battlegrounds, which is Safeguard. I'm sure some people are ranking him up, and a lot of people will try to use him. And I'm also sure that a lot of those people will take him straight out of the deck after the first match, because they'll probably get slapped in the face whilst their opponent goes unstoppable. So yeah, that's all I can say about Unfazed. It's such a BS mastery that ruins a great champion. You can see how versatile Mr. Negative is. I've got a whole 15-minute showcase here of him just destroying battleground fights. In this Mr. Sinister matchup, it's kinda sketchy. Whatever you do, after you throw your special 2, do not let Sinister throw his special 1. If he converts those degens on himself to you, he's going to instantly kill you. Even though Mr. Negs regens from degeneration, 20 degenerations from Sinister is just way too much. You basically instantly die. So yeah, don't let Sinister throw a special 1 after your special 2. But as long as you do that, this matchup is a cook. The power control really helps in this matchup as well, because Sinister's main defensive threat is when he throws his special attack. Special 1 degens you, special 2 puts that concussion on you. But when you have that power control with Mr. Negative, you're baiting out less specials, which just makes him a hell of a lot easier to fight. Petrifies don't work on Sinister, so we're not going to reverse his regeneration or anything like that. But the degeneration cooks him, and this poor Moore here, this is like the most ideal matchup, the most nuky matchup for Negs. He has that Fate Steel Nullify immunity, so Moore can't do anything to us on his special 1. The only thing we need to worry about in this matchup is the falter, but even if Moore does miss us and degen us, we're not going to take much damage from that degen. We're just going to regenerate most of that. But yeah, man, we're approaching the end of the video. The last fight is this Sasquatch here. The only thing I need to say about this fight is make sure you drop your special 2 when Sasquatch goes into Wrath. But let me know what you think of the video. Let me know if you enjoy videos like this, just me waffling basically about stuff I don't like. If you enjoyed it, I'll make more videos like this. Why not, right? There's always stuff to rant about. Let me know in the comments what you think about Mr. Negative though. What you think they should do about Unfazed. Should they just delete it from the game? Should they rehaul it? Should they rehaul Mr. Negs and just give him a slow in his base kit? Should they add a relic to the game with the slow? Let me know what you think in the comments. But yeah, if you enjoyed the video, leave a like, subscribe. I'd appreciate it. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video.